Hello, welcome back to That's So Nova. It's your first time here. Welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. We're going to be doing the Mini E dual compartment crossbody. This is a really cute bag. This bag is the kind of the mini version of the mini Erica Bowler bag, but with a twist. It has two separate compartments. I feel like this is a bag that we all been wanting to have for a long period of time, and Alexis is granting her end of year wish for this. I'm really excited. This bag is adorable. When I say it's adorable, the minute I made it, everybody in my house was like, oh my God, it's so cute. It's so tiny, but it's functional. It can hold a lot of your essential stuff for day or night, and it's actually the perfect bag. And I think it's really complementary to her collection. So let's get started. I cannot stress this enough. Alexis has a very thorough directions for interfacing. Please follow suit. I know a lot of people want to go off and do different stabilizers and whatever. I would totally recommend you to make either a mock-up muslin first with fabric that is not your favorite and interfacing so you can see how things work. There's a lot of manipulating and squishing in this bag, and if you use harder interfacings like Decoville Heavy and things like that, you will be miserable in this pattern. I also kind of recommend using cotton woven for your interiors. Being on the team that tests this, I do see that a lot of people, when they're using the water resistant canvas and waterproof canvas, they're having a little bit of issue when it comes down putting it in the gusset, because these fabrics have no give whatsoever. There are some weft and warp on the front, but the backside is completely plastic, meaning that there's no stretch whatsoever. And when you make your lining out of a woven, you can have fun and make some interesting selections for your own bias tape. With that being said, let's get started. What I like to do a lot is I always love to see her anatomy of the bag. I feel like it's very important. It helps you pick out, your fabrics that you like, and it just helps me when I'm creating a bag pattern. So what I like to do is I like to stick like one of these alligator clips here, so that way if I need to go back and refer to something, like if she says handle or main panel or strap, I can refer to the picture. Also, what I would like to do is place a clip on the cut chart. Now, she does include beautiful tags that you can add to it, where you add to each one of your straps, but this just helps me out a little bit when we're ready to go. So we're going to start with the beginning of the pack. Okay, let's start with our handles and our strap. So on our handles and our strap, let's start here. This is our strap. I like to roll up my strap and put it on with a little bit of a rubber band, so that way it can be out of the way. I'm using this really glitterful vinyl that is from Backstitch Print. Unfortunately, Backstitch Print is no longer, so you won't be able to get this, but if you do have it in your stash, this is the perfect time to use it. We're going to fold this over and leave a 1/8 of an inch. As I'm folding this over, you see me just gently applying this on my double-sided tape. I'm looking at the line that I made, so that way I know where to go. Now, this strap is a 3/4 of an inch strap. So if you don't have that hardware, you can make it 1 inch. Heck, you can even make it a 1/2 inch. Whatever you have in your collection is going to be fine. This bag is perfect for any amount. I think a 1.5, so like a 1 inch would be very whimsical, kind of like Mad Hatter-ish. Like, it's a very thick strap for a small bag. The tape I'm using is Wowak. That's my go-to tape. I should have stock in them by now. I have no complaints because they literally ship to me extremely fast. So I'm doing something a little against my grain. Normally when I have colorful like vinyl like this, I usually will use an iridescent because I'm a sucker for iridescent. But I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use antique brass just to give it that old vintage feel. So hopefully I won't regret this, but we shall see. I like to experiment every now and again with something to, you know, keep it fresh. Okay. Then we're going to put some clips. Take your time. It should fold in nicely because you left a 1/8 of an inch gap. So like the excess bulk goes into that gap really nicely. Every couple inches or so, you place a clip. You don't, if you can do this without it, then go for it. Yes, my clips are all all different. All right. We're going to take this over to the machine and we're going to stitch down at 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to back stitch at the beginning and at the end. I back stitch like 2 to 3 stitches just to lock it in. I'm using 70 weight thread, Amon thread in black. I was debating on whether using antique, like an antique bronze color to go with the zipper tape teeth, but I just went with black because I think sometimes I like to have contrasting stitching, and other times I just really love having something that matches, so that way that the characteristic of the fabric print, like the fact that this is all different colors, can really shine through. So we're going to go down both sides like on figure 9. I'm going to go across. Okay. I'm going to let it fly. This is the already closed half, so I usually just let the machine fly and let it do its thing. It's actually one of my favorite things to do. It's like therapeutic in its own way. And I'm just going to just do a couple stitches across and then back stitch. And I broke the thread already. Yay. That means it's going to be a good bag. It never fails that I always break the thread. I promise you. It's one of the reasons why I have like such a great fondness for like 90 weight and like heavier weight threads. Because sometimes the thicker the thread, just the more I like it. 70 weight thread, don't get me wrong, is extremely thick, especially when you look at it compared to like 40 weight and what have you. But I'm a sucker for 90 weight. That's like my perfect thread. But that's like my perfect thread weight, I think. But I don't have all the colors yet on that. It will happen though. So we're going to do some measurements. We're going to measure up. We're going to fold. Sorry. We're going to take one loop of one end of a strap, and I'm going to get the hardware. All right. We're going to take this and have this here. We're going to loop. We're going to stick one of the 3/4 inch in. We're going to kind of go under. I'm going to shimmy this up a little bit more. Under and over the bar. And I'm just giving myself some more slack. This is just another way to do this beautiful strap. And then we're giving ourselves about an inch here. And then we're going to put a rivet in it. And this is just the, if you look at this like this is just the same strap. We're not actually doing it on the part that's over the top of this. So we're going to I didn't do the sew a swivel, so obviously this one is not punched out. I need to ask Santa for a better hole punch that I don't need to swivel over. Okay, and I'm going to set it, and then I'm going to do the bottom. You could have did the bottom, this one first. I'm going to feed this through, and we're going to measure about 1.5 inches, and we're going to punch a hole through here. And of course, when in doubt, you have to second punch it. Taking a stem, feeding it through, and then we're going to set these two pieces together. And you can see how the rivet is nice and flush. You don't want more than 1/8 of it sticking out. Your post then can crumple on itself and not mushroom in the cap and really set. And that will be unfortunate for a gift or something that you sell, or even yourself, if just the strap comes apart. So let me go ahead and set this with my rivet press real quick. I have one done. And the other one. So we have our crossbody strap. So I'm going to just put this out of the way real quick, and I'm just going to use the rubber band that I used to put the strap together to hold it in one place so it's not unraveling all over the place. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our handle. And again, if you didn't use the pieces and you're like, wait, Shinova, which one is the handle? Go back to your clip and you can get the measurements for the handle and you'll be able to see. The handle is pretty interesting because it doesn't have any interfacing. So just remember that's the one you're looking for. And if you prepped, then you drew the center, and then you have the double-sided tape. And again, I'm just pressing it forward. I'm not trying to manipulate it in any other direction. Sometimes I think that's how handles can get all crinkly and wrinkly. Let's see. What? My double-sided tape always has something from the previous work that I did. And see how I left a 1/8 of an inch in the center. And if you want to, you can roll this out, because that's our best version of ironing on vinyl. We're going to clip this. And we are going to sew down 1/8 of an inch. Now, when we do this, we're not going to go across. We're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch, go on, back stitch, back stitch. We're going to do the same on the other side, not going across. Because this is a handle and this will be used and be shown, we want to make sure that it has the proper back stitching that it needs. Okay, I'm going to just lift up my threads and go on the other side. Or you can go down the same side if you wish. So that way, some people believe you need to have your straps going sewn on the same direction so that it doesn't twist. It's an interesting theory that I see a lot of people say they believe in. So let's give it a try. I'm always down for new methods. All right. That's remove and release the strap from its threads. And I'm trying to get all these threads. And it does. It looks very good. It's a very straight strap. So we have that done. We're going to do some measurements. I'm going to grab a chalk pencil. And the first measurement we're going to do is at 1 3/4 of an inch. I'm just going to draw a line across there, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next. And then our second measurement is going to be 1 inch. So this is from both the short ends. You want to make sure you got the measurements down right. So measure twice if you have to, like I just needed to do. This is why I like chalk. It just erases. So 1 3/4 of an inch and 1 inch. And it doesn't hurt to check again. All right. Sorry, I'm just doing this again. 1 inch. And 1 3/4 of an inch. All right, so once you have that down, what you need to do is you need to draw holes. So I'm going to be using this is a strap maker for measurements that I usually use for making my crossbody straps, but I found it extremely useful because it has the 1 inch, it has a 3/4 of an inch line right here, and then a 1/2 inch. So I can draw the perfect circle, where the rivets need to be. When my pen is actually working. Let's see. Where did you go, pen? And so that way I can make sure that it's nice and straight. Because again, your girl's not the best at eyeballing. All right, and let's punch these holes. Let's see, this one everything didn't come out. So I just noticed that with a lot of, at least this hole puncher, I have to punch and then kind of swivel to release any like area that didn't get fully punched. All right, so let me grab those things, and then we're going to start working on the next part. So we're going to just put this aside for right now. We're going to grab our zipper panels, the lining and the actual panels. We're going to grab our double zipper panel wall, and that's the center panel wall, I'm sorry. And our zippers. And then ours is upper panels. All right. So again, if you get lost and you're like, what is what? I'm confused. So just go in there and you go look for your double zipper panels. There's double wall zipper panels, and you can see what your double wall zipper panels are. So you can go and you can find like what they are. Okay, so we're going to take our center panel, and we're going to take our two zippers. We're going to separate your two zippers. I know. Before we do this, I know this could be a little stressful. We're going to singe our zipper ends really well. Now, if you're a person that gets a lot of wavy zippers, I would recommend you to lightly press the woven areas first. If your zipper is already kind of crinkly or wrinkly, I would want you to think that you need to expect that your zipper might come out crinkly and wrinkly. Just something to think about. So we're going to separate these two. Bam. And bam. All right. So this part is going to be crucial. We are going to take some clips. I'm getting some alligator clips, just hair clips, and we're going to put them, zipper panels, right side together with the center. So the right sides together, zipper tape. So we should see the wrong side of it, and they're going to just be right sides together. And I know you're like, hey, why can't we just put double-sided tape? If you don't see, Alexis puts very clearly not to put double-sided tape and not to baste. All right, so we're going to sew this up at 3/8 of an inch. Be precise in this movement. when you're sewing, make sure it's exactly at 3/8 of an inch. You're going to back stitch 1 or 2 stitches, locking the stitch in. Move your clips as you go. Don't sew over them. Ask me how I know. Okay. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Just use some alligator clips or whatever clips you have. You can use Wonder clips, anything. If you're using, if you're not using vinyl, you can definitely use some pins if you wish. All right, so this next part is super important. We're going to take this and we're going to fold this back. We're not going to use any double-sided tape. We're just going to fold this back onto itself. Okay, you can again use clips. So you see on the back side, there's no lining. We're going to sew 1/8 of an inch. I cannot stress to you, this step is crucial, 1/8 exactly. So I have a hint for you. So when you're over here at the machine, make sure when you're sewing 1/8 of an inch, your zipper teeth, this is not in the pattern, so I'm just giving you a heads up. Your zipper teeth should hit the 3/8 of an inch mark, and that means that your zipper foot on the inside will be exactly on the 1/8, and you should have a foot that is grazing right here. So if your zipper, for me, if I sew at 3/8 of an inch, so this is flush with 3/8 of an inch, it sews exactly at 1/8 of an inch. You do not want to sew at 1/4 of an inch. You do not want to mess up on this. This is the time where you want to hold your breath and take your time. This part is crucial to go to the next step. And again, back stitch. So I found out when I was doing this, when I was sewing down both sides, if I have the same, if I look at the guide at 3/8 of an inch and have my zipper flush next to it, that I get exactly a 1/8 of an inch top stitching, as well as it comes out more uniform and not messed up at all. Because sometimes, you know, top stitching goes crazy. It's just, that's the beast of the nature we do. So we got one side. Let's do the other. And we're going to take this and we're going to take some clips. And I'm just folding back this on itself. There's reasons why we're not using double-sided tape. Please, 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 like Sabrina Carpenter says, do not use double-sided tape. You will instantly regret it in the next step. I promise you. All right, we got it. right. So we did that. We are going to mosey on to page, we're the next page, and we're going to go to figure 31. We're going to be making some markings. So we're going to mark up 3 1/4 of an inch. And again, what I'd like to do is I draw and chalk a line across, so that way I can make sure I have the exact markings. And then we're going to do 2.5 inches and do the same thing on the other side. So 3 1/4 and 2.5. All right, so then what I do for this is I'm going to kind of clip this in half so I can get the perfect center marks. So I'm going to use my silver pen so I know exactly where to do it. If I don't have it well centered, it will drive me batty. So this is what I do so I don't drive myself batty. You also can measure it and do the exact measurement, but this is just something for my little brain to work out. So then we're going to punch the holes. And make sure when you punch the holes, you're not punching into your seam allowances on the other side, okay? Do the swivel. And it's important to punch these holes out now. And this is why this piece has Decoville Light. I used Profuse from Wawak on mine. And I'm kind of, like I said before, I'm kind of digging it. So right now we're going to take these 2 long pieces that are the that we mentioned in grabbing they're called the double wall zipper panels. And I'm going to double check for that name for you. Yes, double wall zipper panels. They're pretty long pieces. Let me get them. All right. All right, so we have these 2. We should have these pieces right in front of us. I'm going to move these temporarily. And when I moved my zipper, when I moved my pen, I de-threaded this. So let me re-thread. When in doubt, just de-thread. All right. So we are going to make a 1-inch mark on one of the short ends. And I'm just going to grab my chalk pencil. If you haven't no idea that I absolutely love chalk, I absolutely love chalk. So 1 inch right there. And we're going to make some marks on our interior of our seam allowance. It might be a little difficult, but you can do this. You're going to lift this up and you're going to mark 3/8 of an inch. And that's going to be our stopping and starting point. And so I'm going to use my silver pen or not. Let's see. Sometimes with the fuzzy backs, my silver pen doesn't want to work. So I have regular pens beside me. So I'm going to do the 3/8 of an inch and the inside of our seam allowance. So you see how we have the zipper and then we have our seam allowance. We're just going to open it up. And we're going to do this on the other side as well. And I know you have to finagle it in there, but it's all going to make sense why we did this. This is very reminiscent of one of another of Alexa's bags. So if you are a person that continuously makes her patterns, this is going to feel very familiar to you. So we're going to take one of the pattern pieces, one of the zipper double walls, and lay it pretty sides up. And we're going to, where the 1 inch mark is, we're going to lay our pattern right there, or lay our zipper panel. We're going to grab some clips. We're going to move these alligator clips out of the way so they don't just fly off the table. And they did that anyways. And we're going to match them up. Now we're going to start clipping. I'm going to start clipping right at that 3/8 of an inch mark. And this is why we didn't use double-sided tape, because we are going to be sewing this on the seam allowance. This, my friend, is the most, I don't want to say difficult, I want to say the most technical part of the bag, and the rest is easy peasy lemon squeezy. The rest is just you learning to maneuver the bag and smushing it into place. Once you get this down, you got it. All right. So we are going to sew this down. We're going to be using the short ends. We're going to sew it down using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And you're like, Shanova, how can we do this? You're going to get as close as you possibly can. We're going to start and stop at that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance markings that we made on the inside. And you're going to get as close as you can to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're going to back stitch at the beginning and at the end. And you just have to finagle this in. You got this. And most of it, to be honest with you, will be hidden because it's in the seam allowance. So take your time. If you want to use a stiletto while you're doing this, you can. You just have to truss your clips, and it reaches 3/8 of an inch. It goes in between the seams slightly, but you're not going to be able to see it on the other side. We got this. And stop at that 3/8 of an inch and back stitch. And I'm going to trim these threads, tails, and see how it's exactly at 3/8 of an inch. And then you see it's in the seam, but it doesn't show on the exterior at all. That's how you want it. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to have the right side of your zipper wall. And we are going to clip this right at that 1 inch mark, but starting at that 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to line this panel up with the 1 inch mark, but start sewing at the 3/8 of an inch mark that we drew on the inside of our panel, our center panel. It's so cool. Like, I would love to be a fly in the wall when she comes up with these kind of ideas. I just, like, for the life of me, I would have never think of anything this insanely cool. Okay, so we're going to do this again. We're going to sew 3/8 of an inch. Okay. Get to that mark and back stitch to lock it in. All right. Trim those threads. So let's see. All right. So now we're going to take this and we're going to put them, each panel strip, right sides together. Make sure you go to the individual one. You're going to put them right sides together and just put a clip. And do the same thing. Make sure they're not twisted. Right sides together and then put a clip. We're going to sew these at 3/8 of an inch. Back stitch well at the beginning and end. And I'm just going to all right. So once we're done with that, we're going to trim them down to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm leaving a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. Okay. So it's going to look like this when it's done. All right. Now we're going to grab our zipper wall, our zipper panels, and the 2 zippers. So we're going to take our lining fabrics and we're going to baste trim up this excess. We're going to baste our zippers on. So the right sides are both looking up. So the wrong sides of the zipper is touching the right sides of the lining. So baste this on at 1/8 of an inch. we're in this double-sided tape era, but I do appreciate when a designer, every now and again says like, no, let's not do it. Let's try something. Let's go back to the basics. And that's based. And you're like, no, no, no. But then when you do it, you're like, I remember my needle not gumming up. it was excellent. And it just gives an extra sense of security too to the bag. I know it feels like you're taking more time off, but are you really? Because by the time you take the tape off and center it perfectly, could you have sewn the zipper on, basting wise? All right. And then we're going to put the panels on right sides together. And we're going to sew them at 3/8 of an inch. I'm locking that stitch at the beginning and the end. Some of you on domestic machines have that actual lock-in power, which is pretty cool. I need to unstitch this because I did not baste this real good. So I'll use double-sided tape for the sake of argument on this. You tell me, what do you think? I like the idea of double-sided tape, but no matter what machine I have, it gums up the needle. So I do have alcohol wipes right beside me. I do think it can save time, but I don't know if in the long run, if you have to wipe down your needle or remove gunk from your feed dogs, if you're actually saving time in the grand scope of things. Do you sound off down below? Tell me, do you think you save time with using double-sided tape, or do you just like the fact that you think the bag is maybe a little bit more secure if you have permanent double-sided tape? Let me know what you think. Or does it weigh on your mood? Because some days I'm like double-sided tape queen. Like nobody could tell me anything about double-sided tape. It's all hell double-sided tape for everything. And if so, what is your favorite brand? Do you like Wizardly Stitchery? Do you like Waywax? Do you like Weft and Warp? Do you like who else has some? Garner Rooms. There's so many people that have so many. Do you think it makes your zippers less wavy? Just idea. Ooh. Three-eighths of an inch. It all depends on my mood. Like if I feel like I'm doing a bigger bag, I use so much double-sided tape. It's not even funny. And then sometimes I'm like, I don't want to use double-sided tape because after I clean out my machine and I clean out all the glue residue, I'm just like, I curse double-sided tape with all my heart. But then it all just depends. It depends on the mood for me. let's see. Okay. All right, so once we do that, we're going to make the zipper teeth show. So what I like to do is I just show the lining, and I just put a couple of clips so that the wrong sides are touching and the zipper teeth are fully out. But I'm making sure that the zipper lining is completely out of the way. I've had it where the lining got stuck, and like every time you unzip the bag, you kind of tug at the lining. It was just the absolute worst. I'm pulling out the teeth evenly now before we top stitch. Okay. All right, so we're going to top stitch just at 1/8 of an inch. Again, that 3/8 of an inch rule applies. If your zipper teeth touch that 3/8 of an inch marking, like right up to that line, then you're top stitching exactly at 1/8 of an inch. See if I can get you to see what I'm talking about. All right, so this is the 3/8 of an inch lining for me. So when I put my teeth right there, the line is right flush with it. So when when I put my needle down, let me get my needle up. When I put my needle down, half of all the foot going towards the left, the middle and the left side are together, but this right part of the foot is just going on the line of the zipper tape. So that's how I know I have a perfect 1/8 of an inch top stitching. If it's right, it's hitting right at the 3/8 of an inch. All right, so we're going to mark our centers. I'm just going to base the long edge with the 1/8 of an inch so that the lining and the exterior are one piece. So when I make my center marks, they just stay nice and flush. All right. get those tails. And I cannot stress enough, the center marking on here is imperative. Like there's center markings throughout this whole entire pattern. And because this bag is so tiny, you definitely cannot skip this step, because it just will get lost in translation. So we're going to do that again on this side. We're just going to base at 1/8 of an inch. You can base at a later step, but it's easier for me to mark something when everything acts in one unit. Sorry, my machine was acting a donkey. I don't know what is up with my black threads today. They just do not want to stay inside this needle. I sewed some other projects today using black thread, and it did the same thing. I'm just gonna trim any excess threads or any lining that doesn't match up with the exterior. All right, so I'm going to put a clip in this to fold this in half to make sure everything's nice and flush. And then I'm going to find my center, and I'm going to do like a small notch. That's like 1/8 of an inch, or even though our seam allowance is about 3/8 of an inch. So we put our notch. We're going to grab our 2 lining pieces. And again, I'm using cotton. We're going to put our notches for the center marks. And just get in the habit of just notching everything. It'll help you, and you won't be frustrated. Everything will fit nicely. I noticed that when people get frustrated with bags that have like a bowler bag, it's because they are not taking the time to notch everything and get everything clipped in the center. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to find my center by bringing the center zipper nice and even. And I'm going to just clip the top real quick. And I'm going to snip in the center, just a little snip. Anywhere there's an excess, like a double side, I'm just doing the center on both sides. All right. So we have this. We're going to now we're going to put this gusset together. We're going to put these on the side. We're going to be using them later. We're going to put these pieces together. So we're going to do one pocket at a time. We're going to turn the zipper panel wrong sides out. We're going to clip these lining pieces. This is the part that you have to pay attention. Make sure you're doing the right lining pieces to the right side. It's easy to grab the wrong one. So just take your time and make sure you do the right one. And what I find easy is to do the top first, because that's where the most of the bulk is. Again, this is why I personally recommend you doing cotton, because even with a woven interface, there's some kind of give and some where it's easier to mold around. but you could use water resistant canvas, but just be cognizant that it could be a little fickle. And we're just going to mold it around this shape. We're going to be using a lot of clips. We're going to clip this good though. With this bag, you're going to get a little bit of binding, a little bit of flipping, a little bit of birthing, a little bit of everything. But it makes it turn out oh so beautiful. You're going to be so proud of yourself. I was so proud of my first one. I was just like, this bag is everything. So just mold it around. And see, it could get a little difficult with curves when you are working with water resistant canvas. So you may have to snip in to your lining pieces. And if that's the case, that's okay. Just do little snips here and there. With cotton, you can just kind of manipulate it a little bit, like fold it into the seam, and it will kind of work out. If it doesn't, you can do the same thing. We're going to be sewing this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so you have a little bit of wiggle room to cut into your snippet if you need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm using a little bit thicker cotton. So I'm going to snip into my gusset just a little bit. We have a 1/2 inch. So you can do anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 3/8. And see how I'm just going to kind of spread out this. If you have water resistant canvas, you can kind of do the same. Spread out that bulk. Just don't go over a 1/2 inch because then you're going past the seam allowance. And I'm just going to do the same thing here. If it's easier for you to draw a 3/8 of an inch line, so you know how far to go to snip in. And just mold it in, and it'll start laying flat. All right. We're going to sew this together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Backstitch well. Make sure you don't accidentally sew over the center zipper, and Okay. So then we're going to trim it. I'm going to use pinking shears. Make sure you only trim the seam allowance, don't trim inside. Don't accidentally trim the stitches or accidentally trim the center divider, the center zipper panel. If you don't have pinking shears, you can cut little snips around the rounded edges with your scissors, or sometimes at Joann's or Hobby Lobby's they have like pinking shear, like things on a rotary blade that you can use. All right, so let's do this on the other side. Okay. I'm just trying to open up this side seam as best as I can. It's a small seam allowance, but I'm just trying to get it as even as possible. And you already see the bag coming together. Like, we're so close to already almost being finished. It's not even funny, because what we do next is we're going to put the zipper panel on, and then we're going to start making the exterior. Then it just comes together so beautifully. And you only have some materials you don't have to, you're not going to have to make snips, and other materials you do. And that's the beauty of different fabrics. Some fabrics have a little bit more stretch than others. Some fabrics don't, but just be prepared to do it, and just do it within your seam allowance and you'll be fine. There'll be nothing to worry about. All right, let's take this to our machine, and we're going to start sewing this at a 1/2 inch all the way around. Make sure you lock in your stitch. And if you get in a jam where some areas are still a little tight, just do those little snips. You're going to be okay. Okay, we're going to do our pinking shears again. And by pinking it, it's just going to make it lay flatter on the inside of the bag and make it settle easier. And it helps with fraying, especially if you're using like cotton woven or a water resistant. You want to pink it so that I can just lay a little bit nicer. All right, so we're going to turn this right sides out. Whoop, whoop, there we go. We're going to now do a couple things. Oh, we're going to do something I guess I completely missed on. Somehow I missed. I think I'm missing figure. We're going to put the handle on. So when you do this, make sure you have your rivets and your hardware. I'm going to put these on later because unscrewing them and screwing them can be a little bit of a heartache. I'm going to put my zipper holes over here. I'm going to be using triangle rings. And I absolutely love these because there's a less likelihood of them twisting. So I'm going to stick them on here now. If they are in a fit. Yeah, they will. I'm just going to put them where they're going to be placed. Because to accidentally put your rivets in on your handle and forget your rectangle rings, triangle, whatever you have would be harsh. So we're going to need a couple of stems. We're going to need 4 stems and 4 heads. And I'm using antique. You can use whatever color makes you feel good inside. All right. We're going to put our stem through. And because we have Decovil Light or something equivalent in there, this is going to be a nice fit. So we're going to push these through. And we pre-punched hole all the holes so everything should go in effortlessly. And we're just going to put them through. And I'm clicking the rivets together, so it's like presetting them. And then I'm going to set them with my rivet press. So I'll be right back. I'm going to set these bad boys. And I love this because you have your handle all ready to go. I like the way they look too. So when you're setting your rivets, I usually feel 2 slight pushes and that's it. And then they're set. If your rivet is too large, you're going to get a balloon kind of mushroom effect. And you won't get a mushroom effect and it won't cap off in there. And that's something that you don't want. You definitely want it to kind of mushroom and like solidify and become one unit. If it doesn't become one unit, then it's not the best. So let's see. That looks really cute. And then you would put your strap ends on here. Okay. So once we do that, we're going to grab our zipper pulls and our zipper panels. So there's 4. And we're going to push them in. So I'm going to line these up. And I'm just going to make sure, this is where a zipper jig can be handy. You just want these to be nice and flush with each other. And if you have like big zipper pulls like me, you can put I call it a chaser, like a smaller zipper that has like a basic zipper on there first, and then you can just follow behind it if it's too hard to put both of them on at the same time. So a zipper jig comes in really handy, or a fork, or that dish towel thing that I see a lot of people use. That I'm deathly afraid of those things because I'm like, I'll be that person that has that finger injury from it. That's one side. So I'm like looking to see if I have an extra zipper to show you. But if you have a plain zipper, you could put that all the way through. If the zipper is too big and it's kind of getting in your way or it's distracting you, and then you could put your bigger zippers on. But I usually just put one side on. I look inside to see both sides of the zipper are at the center divider, and then I just click it on. You can hear an audible click sometimes. And see, like that's not flush because the zippers are not meeting evenly. So I'll unzip it. And I want the zippers to like be flush. Sorry, my phone is not on mute. That's nice. So I'm going to push this all the way to the end of the other one. And then I'm going to put this other one. I so appreciate that she has 4 zippers on here. 1, that means there's no right side or wrong side to this bag. 2, if one zipper goes bad, then you have another one that can pick up the slack. And 3, it just looks really classy and unique. Okay, so we have our zippers on here. Perfect. We're going to go to this next model. We're going to grab our zipper linings, and we're going to grab this. So for our zipper lining, we're going to put lining side together. And we're going to just kind of clip that in place. We're going to do that on the same thing. So this is the exterior. We're going onto the inside and we're just putting lining to lining. And we're going to base this in place at 1/8 of an inch. As I'm basing this in place, I'm going to back stitch over the zipper teeth because the zipper teeth have no zipper stop at this time. So to ensure that there's a zipper stop, I will be back stitching anytime we're anytime there's a time that we're going to sew over the zipper teeth. Okay. And because we're not cutting out the lining, it's going to just be another zipper stop. All right. Then we're going to put all of this. It gets, a lot of it gets in your way, so just be patient. We're going to put the right side of the gusset together with it. And see how everything just fits nice and nice, just so nicely. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this on the sides. We're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch. All right. Now we're going to fold our lining piece away from the gusset. And we're going to top stitch at I think I had some shiftiness. Hold on. I'd rather have it right than come back and do it wrong. And this is why you clip everything. You know that? Hey, that's why no one's perfect, right? Why are you doing this with scissors? I don't know. I find the seam ripper like incredibly intimidating, so it's easier for me to do this with seam rippers. All right, here we go. It's better now. We're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch, and again I'm going to back stitch over the zipper tape just to make sure that everything stays put. And it's sometimes you have to just, if you have to redo something to make sure everything's even, just redo it. So see, now it's all like meeting correctly. All right, so we're going to put the lining out of the way and we're going to top stitch at we're on figure 71. We're going to move the lining piece out of the gusset way. We're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch. Carefully top stitch 1/8 of an inch. Be sure the lining is out of the top stitch. And because it's binding, I'm just going to back stitch. Okay. And then we're going to go and we're going to do a little snippety snip on the sides just to help the exterior. Just removing some of that bulk. Okay, now we're going to kind of do the same thing on this side. We're going to move all this on the side and put lining piece with lining piece, right sides together. And just make sure you don't get things twisted. I know there's a lot of little floppy pieces, but you got this. Okay, we're going to base this on. Okay. And then we're going to place these pieces together. And we're going to sew it at 3/8 of an inch. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Making sure all the other pieces are just out of the way. All right. And we're going to do this again. We're going to top stitch, but we're going to make sure that the lining piece is out of the way. So it's a little bit more trickier. Just put all the lining pieces towards where the zipper panel is, and just so you can just kind of tuck this underneath your machine and just top stitch with the lining pieces out of the way. A little trickier, but you got this. You're a pro. Okay. All right. We're going to trim threads, and then we're also going to just remove that excess bulk like we did at the last one, and threads. All right. We're making progress here. So now we're going to do some finagling with the inside. I also wanted to say, if you have a tag, you also could put it here. I thought this was a good location because it could sit right here and it doesn't take away from like the look of the bag. So I thought that is a really cute area, because I know people always are looking for places where to put your tag, and some people like it in the center of the bag. Some people like it just, I don't know. I have a really hard time with like locations, and also I have a hard time. I can have a tag looking dead at my face, and for some odd reason, I continuously forget it. I don't know why. It's just how I function. And then after the bag is made, I'm like, oh my god, I didn't put the tag in. And like, yeah, that's just who I am. The person who forgets everything that's important in bag making. That's why I'm like, there's no rules. The reason why I say there's no rules is because I'm always constantly 100% forgetting something. And now I'm trying to find a back washer real quick, but I may not be able to find one. And if there's no washer, it's cold. It's cold. It's not because I really wanted to put it there, but it is what it is. It literally is what it is. And I think I have one right here. Yay. It was right there in front of my face. All right. So, you can put it here. I thought would be cute too, but I thought like right underneath this area. So I'm going to find the center. And then I'm going to, I got these at Alibaba, but to be honest with you, my favorite tags are the ones from Heartwood and Hyde. The fabric ones, like they get the most like oohs and ahs. So, like people are always impressed with those ones, and I am too because they're just amazing. Be very careful and just do like a smaller-ish kind of slit. And you could put glue if you want. Some people put like the beacon or like a Loctite or something. I'm using vinyl, and they typically don't move once I fold it. I fold the prongs into each other, onto each other, and you could put duct tape or double-sided tape, whatever you have available, electrical tape. And there you go. So you have like a nice little name tag. And if you are doing a fabric tag, you can do it ahead of time. Just put it either direction, about 1.5 inches down, and you're golden. All right. So from here, we're going to kind of turn this bag inside out, and we're going to work with one side at a time. So for here, remember that center divider we snipped? Well, if we didn't snip it before here, you got to kind of snip it now. All right, so we're going to clip these two sides together, making sure that these areas are nice and flush. And we're just going to snip. And then we're going to do that on this side too. We're going to match side seams. Centered, I'm telling you, the centers are golden. Okay. So for this one, we're going to match. We're going to clip it together. This one is a little bit of finagling too, but you got this. We're not going to be able to get completely to the sides. Just our machine can't handle it. So there's a couple options you can do. You can glue it, or you can take a sewing needle and thread and sew it by hand. A little bit of glue is what I would recommend because it's not very much. It's like a size of a dime, and you really are not going to be able to notice it once you open the bag. So see how we don't see this panel and this panel because we're working with the side that is connected to it. So each panel has its own side. All right, so I'm going to move all this stuff to the side, and this is why I said in the beginning I had the disclaimer about if you want to use heavier, make a mock-up first, because we're about to get squishy from this point on. See, we're going to try to get as close as possible, but there's possibly around 1/4 of an inch that you're not going to be able to get into. And that's okay. So we're going to sew. I notice if you sew into it first and you're going to back stitch, and we're going to sew 3/8 of an inch all the way around. And just make sure you're sewing on the gusset and not the actual bag lining piece. I did that on my first one. So just be cognizant of the other fabric around you. You got this. And I'm going to try to get as close as I can up to this area here. So like this, it's going to be you're not going to be able to get very far, but get as close as you can. And then we're going to lock in those stitches. All right, see, that bag is now closed. So it's very small. It's not even one, like, it's not even 1/4 of an inch. So that's why I said go ahead and just handle your business. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and glue that area. And then we're going to trim with pinking shears. We're going to be one with pinking shears. So I'm going to glue this area. I'm just going to get into that small corner. Okay. Oh, and another thing, whatever you do, you need to do like a clip count. So, all right. I watch a lot of doctor shows, and so when they're ever doing surgery, they have a nurse or a doctor that counts how many sponges or rags they use to stop the bleeding, because they don't want to accidentally leave a sponge in the cavity of a body part, right? It's pretty much the same thing here. If you put a clip in here and you don't remove it when you're closing it up, it's going to stay there. So I had to unpick my last bag because I left 2 clips because of this. So just hold it for a couple seconds and then call it a day. Yeah, I used like a term, a thought process on that. That's the best way I can describe it, because it's such a small thing and you want to use a clip because you're like, here, I don't want to sit there and hold it. And you're right, a clip is ideal, but for some odd reason, I guess because I just like so excited to see this bag get done, I just straight up forgot that I had a clip there. And when I was shaking the bag, you can hear it, and I was like, oh great, oh bother. So we're gonna trim this down with the pinking shears again. Make sure you don't grab the last layers that you did pinking shears with, and it's really easy to do. So just take your time, you got this. All right, so we have that one done. Now we're going to work on this side. So we're going to put right sides together. We're going to match those markers. I think this bag comes together brilliantly. Like, I can't explain it. I have such a crush on this bag pattern. Like, I have a million ideas of how to make it in so many different prints because it's just so whimsical and magical. It couldn't come out at a better time of the year. All right, so we're going to, again, I have a trash can here. I just, ooh, those pinking shears, they leave like little fabric dust everywhere. We're going to kind of sew in and then go at 3/8 of an inch. So I kind of go straight on and then I back stitch and then I kind of go into the seam allowance straight. And you just want to make sure that nothing else is caught up in this, like the other part of the gusset or anything like that. And I know this is like you're getting excited because like you're looking in your baskets and your stuff like that. You see that there's only a couple pieces left, and you're getting excited. Same. I feel you. This is where mistakes can happen because excitement is just right around the corner. So just take your time. And back stitch. All right. And we're going to glue the sections that are a little bit open. Luckily, the beacon glue from Fabric Wholesale Direct, it kind of dries really quickly. So I appreciate that a ton. And it's not a very big hole, so. But again, if you don't want to use glue, you can do a couple whip stitches with some thread and you're good to go. Okay, pinking shears. Okay. All right. All right. So now we're going to baste this together. So I'm just going to clip this together. And if you did your center marks and you did everything right, this should fit nice and perfect. After all, it is Alexis. She's like the queen of nice gussets. And because we did that earlier top stitch, we're only going to be doing the bottom half at 1/8 of an inch. So let's sew this down at 1/8 of an inch. And I usually just do the vinyl on the bottom and I just baste it. I don't really switch my sewing machine like and And I'm just gonna remove any excess like lining that's hanging over past the exterior, so that way it doesn't become part of the seam allowance when it doesn't need to be. All right, and let's do the same on this side. We're gonna get super squishy with this bag, so this is the point why the seam allowance is super I mean the kind of materials for the stabilizer is super important. Like I said, stabilizer to me is like the undergarments of clothes, because certain undergarments can kind of make or break your outfit, can give you the support that you need, and can give you stability. And like shapewear can make you look like a dream, but if the wrong kind of stability can make you look not nice in some outfits. It's the same thing for bag making. So if you're using heavier stabilizer, this is where you're going to realize I shouldn't have, because we are going to be smushing the heck out of this bag. Whenever I do a bag, I always do the recommended what the designer says at first, because there's always a reason. All right, so we are going to do the first one. So we're going to do we did our double wall. We're going to now make our panels. So I have this really fun I think it's like Sulky from Backstitch. It's a different kind of water resistant canvas. It's quite thicker, and I'm using my cotton with water resistant, I think it's Shape Flex 101, if I'm not mistaken. I have like an abundance of it, and I am not gonna waste it. So we're gonna do 3/8 of an inch. Okay. We're going to trim the threads. And I'm going to use my pinking shears once again. And I like to use this in here because this is a slight curve and it just lays down smoother. I'm going to trim it down to have like a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. If you want to, you could bring over an iron. The glue from the beacon always messes up my nail polish. I always forget that. And then I'm like, remember. And then I'm like, oh, forget. And we want this to sit nice and pretty. And we're going to top stitch it at 1/8 of an inch. And Shova, hold your tails. I need to have like a big sign and neon lights to say that, because I know I say it to you guys a lot, but I physically have a hard time doing it. So let's get her done. Right, so we're going to put this on here. I like to always, like the Erica Bowler bag, I like to line up the bottom first, and I'll put 2 clips there, and then I slightly move this in. A lot of people don't do this. This is how the pocket actually has room to be a pocket. It gapes open just like the original Erica Bowler, but you have to move this to be flush with this. If you do this like this, you're going to have roughly 1/8 to 1/4 of a inch lining sticking out. So you need to kind of move it to its flush to the bag shape, and then you'll have a slight gape, and that's what you want for your pocket. We're going to base this on at 1/8 of an inch. All right, and we're going to put the lining on the back of this so that way it could become one unit. But before I do that, I'm just going to find my centers. And I try to make sure that these 2 points are matching right here, and find my center. So we're going to put our lining piece on here. And we're just going to clip. And we're going to base at 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Okay, and any lining that's hanging out as like just a little excess, just trim it. All right, so this is a good area also to put your badge if you have one, or a cute little name tag, or like something, anything. So I'm going to put another tag. I like having these little tags. I think they're super cute. I'm going to use this sewing blurb thing. It tells you where to place your tag so that way it can stick out. And since our seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch, it gives you where to place it so that way it won't get like sucked in with the seam allowance. Okay, because I've accidentally done it where it gets sucked in with the seam allowance, and it's frustrating. So you're just like, okay, do I just cut it? What do I do? Do I pretend like I did this on purpose? So, there's a million things. So we're going to go to the next page where we're going to go to figure. We're going to go to figure 105, well, 104. We're going to open one of these up, and we're going to turn it. This is why we're going to turn this bag right sides in. We're going to hold on, before I do right sides ends, I'm going to make sure I have my centers on the bottom correct. So I'm going to zip this up real quick. You're going to want to put your side seams together. And you just want to make sure everything matches up. That fits perfect. That side seam, the bottom seam fits perfect on that. Okay, because you have the notches from before, you just want to make sure. So you're going to open up any zipper, whatever zipper you want, it doesn't matter. You're going to turn the bag in on itself, and we're about to get squishy with it. Okay. So we're going to match the bottom and match the top notch. Okay, you're gonna want to pull out every clip you have. You can definitely use staples. I don't, because I have this thing where I feel like, one, I will forget to remove staples because I'm that person that leaves clips in a bag. Two, I have had many staple accidents. And three, it's just the thought of like the staples like rubbing against my machine bed gives me the heebie-jeebies. So I don't do it. Occasionally I'll do it for a video if it's like part of it, but I just normally just clip it with a million clips and call it a day. I find this gusset fits perfect, but it could be because I am using, again, cotton woven. Cotton woven has some kind of stretch to it, even when it's interfaced, because if you're using a woven interfacing, it has some kind of stretch to it too. This might be a little bit more trickier if you're using waterproof canvas or water resistant canvas. If you are doing so, you might have to snip. But you might not, because it's Alexis and she is known for perfect gussets. We're gonna sew around this. We're going to sew around this with using 1/4 of an inch. And because we're binding, I'm gonna back stitch, and I like to use a stiletto. I think my thread is out. I'm out of bobbin thread, which is okay. I'm just going to flip this real quick and remove it. This is like a perfect time. At least it happened now, not in the middle of binding. So that was one full bobbin, and I'm now on my second one, and I'm using 70 weight thread. So I think if you are using a domestic machine and you're doing 40 weight, there's a strong possibility you can get away with using one bobbin on this bag. So I always love that. If you're using 90 weight, you're going to be using maybe 2 full bobbins. Okay, we're squishing the bag, maneuvering it. What I love is that because it's a mini one, you can really practice sewing curves. And I think it's important to do that. And I'm just going to use my stiletto to just make sure that everything stays in place when I move the clip. Most of the time nothing wants to shift, but you know, every now and again you have a piece that wants to like screech and go back to or its original shape on the gusset. All right, so normally I like to make my bias binding to match, and I would have done that, but I ran out of my fabric, so I'm going to use something to match this other one. I made this bias binding from a Free Spirit fabric, and this is a, I'm not mistaken, a 2-inch that I folded onto itself and did it and made it full. Like I made a center mark and then I folded it onto itself, and then it makes a 1/2-inch binding. So what I like to do is I like to take this and I like to fold it onto itself about a 1/2 inch. And then we're going to start binding. So her binding process is that we're going to fold it onto itself, very similar to her. She does it by 1 inch. You can do it by 1 inch as well. And we're going to sew this together 1/4 of an inch. I like to sew on the very top because no one will look for the seam. So we're going to do the 1 inch like Alexis has. I do it at the very top. And we're going to go over to the machine and we're going to sew this down at 1/4 of an inch. And you're just going to take your time. Make sure you got all those staples out before you put your binding on. Or you're going to be reliving the nightmare I just told you about, like, not sewing over zipper. I mean, not zipper, but metal staples. And I just have this on a little cardboard binding like thing, so that way I can unravel it slowly as it comes around. I like to make my own binding because then I can make it in a multitude of different colors. And I always have different binding on hand, so that way I can have some fun. I think binding is another fun way to make your bag just pop. I know a lot of people are like, no one looks at the binding, but some people do. And some people like that little hint of fun and color, little flirtiness. So we're going to get around this corner and this curve, and then we're going to take our fabric and I'm going to snippet here. We're going to just kind of place it on top without folding this part over. And what it's going to do is going to give us like a seamless binding. And I'll show you right now. Let me trim these threads. So here's our fold over. We just place this and sew it over on top. When we pull this over to this side, how fun is this binding? When we pull it over to this side, this is going to look pretty seamless. So the first thing I like to do, I used to do double-sided tape, but now I just kind of just fold it over and then fold it past the last row of stitching, and then we're going to clip. How fun, huh? Like it looks super whimsical. And if someone does look inside, you're going to be like, you love it, don't you? Okay, I'm just going to bring this over just a little bit more. And then I'm going to feed this into my machine kind of at an angle, and we're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch. Take your time. A stiletto always helps me remove and then just kind of hold the top of the binding in place where the stiletto was. Take your time, make sure you breathe. Okay, look how cute that is. That's so cute. Now we're gonna unbirth this. And you can kind of see a little bit of your fruits of your labor before we work on the final piece. So we're gonna unburst this. And this is, again, why it's important to follow the diameters of what to use for stabilizers and interfacing. So we have this first part, and this, it couldn't be cuter. And see the binding gives it such structure and definitely gives it that true Erica Bowler shape. And look, that's after being squished, and it's like this. So imagine it settling overnight and having it just super cute. So now we're going to do it again. We're going to unzip, and we're going to flip this whole thing to finish off this bag. I am so excited. And we're going to take our second panel, which I did off camera, to save you guys a little time so you don't hear me say the same thing over and over again. All right. And we're going to find our center markings. And it's going to be a little bit tighter because we have a whole other panel that's in there. So just, you know, give it a little grace, give it a little room, and just squish it. That's all you can do. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and now sew this with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Oh, I broke thread. I hate when that happens. This is a basic one, so it's not too bad, I guess. Some thread is super stronger than the others, and it is the way the cookie crumbles, but we got this. just going to try to move all the bag parts towards the center of the bag. Just make sure that you don't get any zipper pulls or the handle or anything that's not supposed to into the cross paths of the needle bar, you know? And I just literally did that. It's like I said it and then I cursed myself. But it just went around the needle bar, but not through it. Thank you. See, that was meant to happen, so you guys know what not to do. Yeah. When you're using these bigger zipper pulls, you just have to be like really cautious because anything could happen. I'm cutting any excess threads that are hanging out, which is a lot. This is like a linen woven, and man, does it it sheds. So again, I'm going to take this, I'm going to fold it over about 1 inch, and I'm going to go to the top of my bag, and I'm going to start sewing the bias around it. Okay, I'm just trying to make the bias tape nice and taut as I possibly can, especially going around the corners. Around the corners. And we're just going to put this through all the way to that 1 inch mark that we folded over, and then we're just going to trim it. So it's past that 1 inch mark. I'm just going to trim it, trim the tail, and even though we gave it a mini trim before, it's still shedding. And we're going to fold this over and start the completion of this bag. If you use staples, this is the final call to make sure that you have all the staples out. We're going to fold this over to make sure no raw edges and it looks nice and clean. Also make sure that you have no clips in the bag. I can't emphasize that enough. I was so surprised that I left clips in the bag. And it wasn't just one, it was 3. Now they were all at the point of where the openings were, so I had it where the glue was, so I was holding it closed. But yeah, I'm only telling you this cautionary tale so you don't do as I do. You do as you want to do. All right, so we're gonna again put this in as an angle and go around it at 3/8 of an inch. Okay, and I'm just making sure that this bias binding on the top stays nice and secure as we continue with the sewing. Okay, and we're about to have the moment of truth. All your hard work, we are about to have the moment. So let's turn this bad boy out. That's do appreciate your beautiful binding. This is phenomenal. If this doesn't make you feel incredible, I don't know what will in bag making. So take your time with this. It could be a little bit to finagle out, but you could do this. Take your time and just like use your fingers, the pads of your fingers, to press out the binding so that you can get a nice shape. And you have to go into each compartment of the bag and to do this. And you can just let the bag rest just a little bit and you'll see how glamorous it truly is. You have this amazing mini E, your a little American bowler bag, and you have a crossbody to go with it. People are going to stop you. They're going to stare, and don't be surprised if you get tons of orders, because this bag is the it bag. I call it, this is one of the best bags I made. It's like instant gratification. You have an opportunity to make it in any colorways. I see the people's bags and the testing group. There's not one that I wouldn't want. I would want all of them. Like, you can have so much fun, and it's a great bag because not only can you put your cell phones in the either pockets in the front, you have separate compartments that you can utilize for many things. And the binding of this bag gives it the bone and structure. So you may think, okay, it's not a lot of stabilizer. You don't need it because the binding gives the structure that you need. The instructions are impeccable. It just comes together. It's instant gratification for me. So you are done with the Mini E. If you have questions in reference to this, please sound off down below. I'll more than willing to answer any question. If you haven't purchased the pattern yet, I do have the pattern affiliate link in my bio. If you're like, hey Chanel, I've already bought it, but I want to do something special for you, I have a link to my Ko-fi. You can buy me a cup of coffee, and that would be awesome too. If you can like, subscribe, comment, it puts me in the algorithm for YouTube, and it helps the channel tremendously. Well, until the next time I see you, I hope you have a fabulous day and stay whimsical. Bye.